Hello again, everybody. In this section, I am going to attempt to route around these windows to finish these. Little update on the Aviola cabinet. In the last episode, I was taking this to a friend's house that I mentioned numerous times, and I apologize. Don't realize you're doing it until after the fact, so I'll work better, work harder at not repeating myself. I'm bad about that, my wife says anyway. But anyway, what happened, we got over there, there was two issues that we identified. Was number one, we used the wrong size of roundover bit, and number two, we did not use the ball bearing as a guide on the so in the corners. I didn't do the physical routing of it myself, but I take full responsibility because I knew we needed a guide to ride that bearing on, and I didn't make sure that happened, and so I should have measured more times to make sure I had the right bit. I think I've got the right bit this time. I've ordered it. It came today, so we're working. I also went and I bought a router, little cheapo trim router. I think it will do fine for what I want to do. The other thing I did is I went and I made a guide, for lack of better words, a jig, whatever, so that I can place it inside here, clamp it down, and I'll have something for the bearing to ride on to keep it at the proper distance all the way around. Once I get the bottom and the top of this one, I just flip it around and do it again. Do it that way, and then do it this way, so that it'll have a guide either way. So I'm going to do all this off camera, so if I cut my fingers off or I mess this up and I have to go to face number 3, this is a reproduction. This is number 2. I went back and rebuilt this totally again in the same method I did in the first one. So this is number 2. Of course, it only took me about 40 minutes this time for this one. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go, and if this turns out well, or even if it don't turn out well, I'll come back and show you what I've done and what I can do to correct it or what have you. I'm not a woodworker, never have been, but if I'm going to continue to play with these old radios and restore trim and what have you, that's the reason I went ahead and bought some stuff to learn, because there's one thing about this hobby. I've never sat down at a radio that I didn't learn something. Now, I may have forgotten it from last week, but I do remember something. So, all right, let me get everything set up. I've done made a few practice rounds on some plywood. I think I've got the depth set. I think I'm good on that. So let me do this off camera. I'll get right back. Okay, guys, I just finished the routing part of it. No blood, all the digits, everything's good. It turned out pretty good. Now I'm going to go back and do some sanding and clean that up, and then this part of will be a darker finish than the radio. I think I've just about decided to go with the gun stock stain on this cherry veneer, but this looks pretty good. Like I say, I'm going to have to dress this up a little bit with some sandpaper and clean it up, but all in all, I think it turned out rather well. So try number 2, a little better than try number 1. Alright, I'll sand this up and give you an update on that here shortly. Thanks. Okay, just to recap, there I've done some sanding. I plan on doing a little bit more, but I think that turned out rather well. It's not perfect, but it resembles the original cabinet. To recap what I've done, I went and I got the correct size of router bit, 1/8 round over beading bit. I'm going to try to use that beading bit to make the rooster comb a little bit later. Made sure I set the proper depth on my router. And I also made sure that the bearing, the limit bearing or whatever you want to call it, the guide bearing, had a place to rest on. So I made the guide, clamped that in place, and I used this for the bearing guide to make sure that I had an even cut across there. Okay, next thing, in the next video, I will start putting this Aviola 502 back together. This is the radio that history forgot. Thanks for watching, and thanks. I picked up a few subscribers this week. I appreciate that. Till next time.